Laura Loomer, here she is getting off of Trump's plane before yesterday's debate. Just on Sunday, she posted an insanely racist message.
Her rhetoric and her tone does not match the base, does not match MAGA, does not match most Republicans I know, and I am completely denouncing it.
Trump continues to bring this person along on his travels with him.
Well, something just happened in the long simmering MAGA civil war that threatens to not only boil the whole thing over, but burn down the proverbial kitchen itself, because MAGA cultist and Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is now publicly beefing with a fellow MAGA cultist who is just as despicable and controversial and radical as she is, and MAGA is freaking out about it. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several things to talk about in this video and a couple of clips as well. Listen, as a general principle, a MAGA civil war, when they're like fighting amongst themselves, is better for America than a unified MAGA Republican Party. So there's something to delight in this. But also, given the two people involved, the two main belligerents, there's also a lot to really be disgusted by. So we're going to start with this clip from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we're going to unpack the context of it. But at the floor, or near the steps, rather, of the House of Representatives, she is asked to respond to incendiary comments made by Laura Loomer, a MAGA influencer. And this is what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say.
And this is such an important election. I don't think that she has the experience or the right mentality to advise a very important president.
Why do you think the former president is even listening to her? She's getting bad advice, or he's getting bad advice from us?
I'm not involved in their conversations, so I can't weigh in on that. But I do know this, that her rhetoric and her tone does not match the base, does not match MAGA, does not match most Republicans I know. And I am completely denouncing it. I'm over it. And I would encourage anyone else that matches her statements to stop. And
that is Marjorie Taylor Greene publicly denouncing a fellow MAGA cultist for her tone, her rhetoric, her style, her presentation, and the controversy surrounding her. I want you to think at how baffling and ironic and unexpected that statement is to come from that person. You might be thinking, damn, if Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, is willing to say that about a fellow Trump supporter and MAGA cultist, what the hell could that person possibly be? Well, here's the context. Vice President Kamala Harris released a statement about her background recently. She says, as a young girl visiting my grandparents in India, my grandfather took me on his morning walks where he would discuss the importance of fighting for equality and fighting corruption. He was a retired civil servant who had been part of the movement to win India's independence. My grandmother traveled across India, bullhorn in hand, to speak with women about accessing birth control. Their commitment to public service and fight for a better future live on in me today. Happy National Grandparents' Day to all the grandparents who help shape and inspire the next generation. And she includes a picture. It's very sweet. Well, Laura Loomer, who is the other belligerent in the story, the one that Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about, somebody we recently did a video about because she's terrified that Trump is going to lose the election based on the current trajectory. Well, this is how she responded. She said, if Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, and the American people will only be able to convey their feedback through a customer satisfaction survey at the end of the call that nobody will understand. Basically, just openly racist bile about Indian stereotypes, right? Pretty gross stuff. Kind of surprised that Marjorie Taylor Greene takes an issue with it, though, given the terrible things that Marjorie Taylor Greene has had to say. But it happened. Marjorie Taylor Greene responded on Twitter saying, this is appalling and extremely racist, which is true. It does not represent who we are as Republicans or MAGA. Debatable for Republicans, not particularly debatable with MAGA. I think this is pretty cut and dry, pretty emblematic of who MAGA often is. I digress. This does not represent President Trump. This type of behavior should not be tolerated ever. Laura Loomer should take this down. She didn't. Again, we'll get into all that. But what's also just, I have to play this clip too, just to really contextualize this. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is really spinning Trump and MAGA as a movement. You know, it's like one of those things, what's the expression? Not every Republican is a racist, but most racists tend to be Republican. It's how I view MAGA as well. So she's definitely whitewashing MAGA's reputation. But what's interesting is Laura Loomer isn't just a Trump supporter. She's actually a close ally of Trump in that Trump engages with Laura Loomer of his own volition, which is something that Marjorie Taylor Greene has to really grapple with. And Jake Tapper made a point to point this out.
Trump is actually traveling with some of these folks, conspiracy peddlers. We should note a veritable legion of doom of bigots and liars, perhaps none so depraved as this woman, Laura Loomer. Here she is getting off of Trump's plane before yesterday's debate. Just on Sunday, she posted an insanely racist message that if Harris, whose mom was an Indian immigrant, wins, quote, the White House will smell like curry and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, unquote. On this 23rd anniversary of 9/11, we should also note Loomer posted last year that 9/11 was a, quote, inside job, unquote. Trump continues to bring this person along on his travels with him. Why? I don't know. Trump is.
So there you go. This is, again, we'll get into Marjorie Taylor Greene really not being a credible person on this issue or really holding MAGA accountable, period. But the elephant in the room is that, is that Donald Trump knowingly associates with Laura Loomer. See, it'd be one thing, I suppose, if Laura Loomer were a strident Trump supporter and Trump wanted nothing to do with her, right? Like it was an unrequited love, but it's not. It's mutual. As a matter of fact, Laura Loomer flew with Donald Trump on Trump Force One to the disastrous debate that he had with Vice President Kamala Harris. That's how close they are. He has repeatedly shouted her out. She's been at Mar-a-Lago. They have a close association. So, yeah, it's hard to make the claim that Laura Loomer is not emblematic of MAGA or has nothing to do with MAGA. It sounds like she's arguably as much as MAGA or representative of MAGA as Marjorie Taylor Greene herself is. And actually, as a matter of fact, plot twist, or another plot twist in this tortured story, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer used to be BFFs. They used to like each other. Here is a clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene giving Laura Loomer a shout out just a few years ago.
When she got kicked off of Twitter, like permanently banned, this woman, I loved her for this, she went and handcuffed herself to the front door of the Twitter headquarters. That was awesome. You see, that's bravery. And they really, really hated her because she wouldn't back down and stop reporting about one of my colleagues, that Congressman Gosar. Yeah, there's a woman named Ilhan Omar that Laura exposed. Yeah, Laura let us know she married her brother.
Yeah, so there's Marjorie Taylor Greene just a few years ago cheerleading Laura Loomer's racist attacks and racist obsession with Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. So Marjorie Taylor Greene knew exactly who Laura Loomer was when they were BFFs, but something changed. Interesting. This is very fascinating stuff. So she actually talks about this a bit on Twitter. She said, oh my gosh, a little bit of a history lesson for a few of you. Laura and I used to be friends going back to 2018. I used to defend her and support her, like in the post here. I endorsed her first run for Congress, donated to her and fundraised for her, and then she lost. When she ran again against Daniel Webster, I told her to run in another district so she could win, but she refused. When I didn't endorse her, she turned on me and began attacking me and lying about me. I still advocated for her to get her former Twitter account back. Laura has lied so much about me and others like Matt Gaetz, even though we are Donald Trump's most loyal and fierce elected members of Congress. She breaks a few good stories here and there, but there are many others she embellishes or flat out lies. Curious that you would like this person who's not only a strident racist, but apparently a liar. And it's really kind of strange that she's so tight with Donald Trump. I mean, just what does this imply about really all of you? I digress. However, her attacks have no bearing on me, nor am I concerned with what she says. As a matter of fact, outside of a bubble on this platform, most regular people don't know who she is. But when it comes to posts that are flat out racist, hateful, and make Trump look bad, she needs to be responsible and delete them. And that, my friends, is the part right there. She gives the whole damn thing away. She doesn't give a shit about what Laura Loomer says unless it's against her or in some way inconveniences Donald Trump. But somebody needs to tell Donald Trump that because, again, he's flying around with her. He is knowingly, willingly associating with her. But that's really what this is about. She is worried that this will somehow hurt Donald Trump politically and electorally, which it may. It should. But that's really the source of this. Laura Loomer responded, Well, while you were busy having sexual affairs, cheating on your husband and getting a divorce and propping up Kevin McCarthy and engaging in insider trading in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I broke many of the stories regarding the weaponized lawfare against Donald Trump. I traveled to the Darien Gap to expose the invasion firsthand and captured, she says, illegal aliens, should be undocumented migrants, on camera who pledged to vote for Democrats, which of course is a conspiracy theory. I took down Ron DeSantis and defended Donald Trump from all of the backstabbers who tried to defeat him in the primary. I have exposed the bias of Judge Merchan and his daughter's entire corrupt enterprise. Judge Merchan, of course, being the presiding judge over the Trump New York trial. You haven't said a word about the crooked judge and his daughter's consulting company, or the fact that Judge Merchan's daughter's business partner is being forced to appear before the House Judiciary Committee tomorrow as part of course, a, fishing expedition against Donald Trump's opponents. I digress. You just took a month-long vacation right after Donald Trump was almost assassinated, and you've lied about impeaching President Biden. You lied about impeaching Secretary Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, and you lied about releasing the January 6 tapes when they said they shouldn't be released. I've done all the heavy lifting while you've been writing books and attacking Trump's closest allies in an effort to elevate yourself. You even attacked J.D. Vance in your clip below, but you don't have the courage to say his name. You've been telling voters in Georgia that Trump is not going to win the election, and you think it's best to forge an alliance with Kamala Harris. I don't know about that part, but she has said that she thinks that Donald Trump may very well lose the election. Why have you declined to assist the election integrity activists in Georgia who are trying to secure the election? Why are you going around telling people Donald Trump can't win the election? You haven't done anything to help Trump. You wrote a book and took a month-long vacation while I've been working 24/7 to support Trump. Oh, snap. It's getting real. And then she just keeps going. Like she is obsessed with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So we're 50 days out from the election, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is speaking to leftist media attacking Donald Trump's strongest allies. Can somebody say jealous? P.S. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been telling election integrity activists in Georgia that she doesn't think Trump will win. Why is she doing this? Tommy Vitor, change of pace here. Tommy Vitor, Pod Save America, former Obama staffer, said even Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling Laura Loomer a racist, and yet Donald Trump flew her to Philly on his plane for the debate. And Trump brought Loomer to today's 9/11 commemoration event, despite the fact that last year she called 9/11 an inside job. That is, again, staggering. I mean, again, I guess I just had a brain blip myself, but not only did he invite her to the debate, he invited her to the commemoration event of something that she has levied conspiracy theories at. It's pretty freaking gross. Dan McLaughlin, I believe of the National Review, conservative commentator, said, my recommendation for the Trump campaign, number 1, fire Laura Loomer. Number 2, never talk to Laura Loomer again. Number 3, fire everyone on the campaign, including the candidate who talks to Laura Loomer. It's not going to happen because Donald Trump doesn't take advice. But the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to close on Marjorie Taylor Greene, in fact, because here's the thing. There will be an attempt by some, to give Marjorie Taylor Greene kudos for her call out of Laura Loomer. She deserves none. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer, as far as I'm concerned, are two sides of the same coin. The real fundamental difference, I suppose, again, substantive difference is that one is in Congress. So if anything, Marjorie Taylor Greene should comport herself to an even higher standard. They are both appalling people. They are both, bigots of the highest order. Marjorie Taylor Greene, in particular, with her history of anti-Semitism and indulging in anti-Semitic tropes. They're both despicable people. This is not a case of Marjorie Taylor Greene having a grand epiphany and calling out a fringe element of MAGA. This is not a fringe element of MAGA. This is metastasized within MAGA. I'm not saying literally every MAGA Republican, but it is riddled like tumors in the body of MAGA, not just one. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is herself very much like Laura Loomer. She gave the game away. She's upset because she thinks, number one, they clearly have a personal grudge against one another. It's probably more one-sided on Laura Loomer's behalf. She probably hates Marjorie Taylor Greene more than Greene hates Loomer, but it is mutual and it is personal between them. And for Marjorie Taylor Greene, what she cares about is getting Donald Trump elected. And the only reason she cares about Laura Loomer's insanity is because she's afraid it's going to damage Trump. And what's ironic is Laura Loomer herself has publicly expressed that she's worried that Trump is going to lose this election. So just the whole thing is just, it's laced with irony and hypocrisy. But I will also remind you, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said this. This was after Trump was shot at. We're in a battle between good and evil. The Democrats are the party of pedophiles, murdering the innocent, unborn, violence, and bloody, meaningless, endless wars. They want to lock up their political opponents and terrorize Americans who would tell the truth about it. The Democratic Party is flat out evil, and yesterday they tried to murder Donald Trump. That was a sitting member of the Republican Congress saying that about not just certain Democratic politicians, but the Democratic Party. So tens of millions of Americans, more Americans than in the Republican Party. And she has said stuff like that time and time again in text and on screen in interviews since becoming a member of Congress. That is the sort of rhetoric that Laura Loomer would express and has expressed on the regular. They hate every person who is not a Trump supporter. It just so happens that they're so stupid and dysfunctional and despicable, both in their rhetoric and in their spirit, that they also will occasionally fight amongst themselves. So that's what I want to end on. This is another part of the MAGA civil war, which is I did not expect. And it betrays only one fact, which is that both of these two, Greene and Loomer, and the cult leader that they mutually claim to worship, Donald Trump, all three of them are morally despicable people who deserve nothing but your contempt. And in the meantime, you let me know what you think in the comments.